Hi, welcome back to the channel. I've been playing a lot of Dragon Ball games as usual. I'm working on the next episode of the ranking, and for this next episode, I'm gonna be playing through 6 whole Dragon Ball games. I just finished playing through the first 2, and something about them really rubbed me the wrong way. It's not the games themselves, it's not whether they're good or bad games, we'll talk about that when we rank them. But it's about how these games were released. You see, despite what many may believe, I don't just download a ROM, slap the game on an emulator, and play it. I always try to play them in a legit way. It's not always possible, but I always try my best. I want my experience to be as close to the real thing as I can make it. And that's why these games piss me off. So buckle up, boys, and grab your gamer subs because it's story time. If you want to know why gamer subs, check out the link in the description below. By the way, they have these Dragon Ball cups now. Some of them are sold out already, so make sure you get them before they're all gone. The first Dragon Ball game was Doragon Doragon Daikikyo. I've talked about it before, we've ranked the game already. This was a Japan exclusive game and the only one not published by Bandai or Bandai Namco. This was in 1986, and on that same year, Bandai released their first Dragon Ball game and brought it over to America 2 years later in 1988. That was Dragon Power. There's gonna be a lot of dates throughout this video. We'll do our best to keep you in sync with the timeline. After that game in 1988, Dragon Ball would be Japan exclusive for a while. The anime came out in North America in 1989 and it had mediocre ratings. Nothing special, they did try it again in 1995, but canceled the show after only 13 episodes. The following year, they licensed Dragon Ball Z for an English release in North America, and this is when it became popular for the first time, 1996. It wasn't the phenomenon that we know nowadays, but until then, there was no reason to release a Dragon Ball game in North America. Why spend money, time, and resources localizing and publishing a game on a region that wasn't a fan of Dragon Ball? It didn't make sense, so fair enough. From 1986 to 1996, no Dragon Ball games in North America. In fact, North America didn't see a Dragon Ball game after Dragon Power until October of 1997, almost 10 years after Dragon Power, and the game was Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. That's crazy to think about. The entire show of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z ran in Japan before Dragon Ball finally became big in America. And when it did, they needed a game to capitalize on the success, and they looked at what they had. Oh, it's Dragon Ball GT, throw that to the Americans. Looking back, it's insane to think that that was the case, especially because this wasn't my experience at all, because in Europe, Dragon Ball became big way sooner, and it's all thanks to the French. The French started dubbing Dragon Ball in 1988, so a year before North America, and Dragon Ball Z in 1990, so a full 6 years before the United States. And across Europe, most dubs were actually based on the French version, which changed some stuff, so those were the translations we got. For instance, Piccolo is Satan, and the androids are actually called cyborgs, so all their names start with C, like C16 and C18. That's how I knew Dragon Ball growing up. But this also meant that we got a lot of video games that North America didn't. One of my most played games as a kid was one simply titled Dragon Ball Z, and it came out on the Mega Drive in 1996, and Dragon Ball was already huge by then. I've never seen a Wikipedia page with a Portugal release date on it. I'm sure there were other games that were only released over here or separately, but I had never seen this before. This game came out in 4 countries: Japan, France, Spain, and Portugal. That's it. But that's not the game we're talking about today. I want to talk about the 2 games that came before this one, and those were Super Butoden and Super Butoden 2 for the Super Nintendo. Both of these games only came out in 3 countries: Japan, France, Spain. These were the first Dragon Ball fighting games ever. And I think it's interesting to see where these games came from now that we have an actual good fighting game with Dragon Ball FighterZ. Maybe it's just me, but I find the history to be very interesting. Now, you may be surprised that Super Butoden actually came out in North America years later. I'm talking 2018, a full 25 years after its initial release. It was a pre-order bonus for Dragon Ball FighterZ on the Nintendo Switch. This was the first time North America could play this game legally without having to import it. It's the Japanese version of the game, unchanged, untranslated, just as it was released on the Super Nintendo back in 1993. So why am I mad about it, you ask? Because it's not for sale anywhere. It was literally just a pre-order bonus, and that was the only way you could get the game. Pre-order bonuses are usually pretty easy to ignore. It's usually, we unlock your characters early, or here's some bonus currency for our in-game store. And on top of that, the stuff that comes with the pre-order is usually for sale later on release, so you got it for free because you pre-ordered. If you still want to get that stuff, you can, you just gotta pay for it. That was not the case with Super Butoden on Switch. Once pre-orders were up, the game was nowhere to be found. And I get it, I get why you do something like this. It's so next time Bandai Namco releases a pre-order bonus and they let you know this is not gonna be available after pre-orders are up, you're gonna believe them. And that's gonna encourage you to pre-order. Even if you don't want the thing, there's a fear of missing out. It's the same thing that happened with those Mario games last year. The 35th anniversary games were removed from the eShop on March 2021. And Nintendo let you know ahead of time that this was gonna happen. So even if you didn't want to play those games back then, you would be encouraged to get them because who knows, maybe I want to play them next year. But next year I won't be able to buy them, and there's this fear of missing out, and that's the whole thing they're capitalizing on. Now, I don't know if Super Butoden really encouraged that many pre-orders, but it sucks that you can't get it anymore, which ultimately just encourages more piracy because there's no easy way to get it legally. If you live in North America, you would have to import a used copy of this, spend a ton of money, and probably none of it would actually go to Bandai Namco anymore because you're browsing the used games market and not buying directly from them. But Bandai is not really bothered by this potential loss because the game was a simple port. They didn't have to do much work to bring it over to Switch. They're basically emulating it on the console itself, which already had a Super Nintendo emulator capable of running many games. So it probably didn't cost them that much money to do it, meaning it doesn't really bother them that they're potentially losing a lot of money in sales nowadays. If they actually localized the game, made an English version, translated everything, maybe things would be different. But the point stands, the game was available and now it's not. The worst part of this is Dragon Ball FighterZ on Switch came out months after the other versions. When the Switch version came out, I already owned the PlayStation version, the Xbox version, and the PC version. I'm a good customer. It would be unreasonable for me to pre-order the Switch version, so why am I being punished? Especially since at that point we already knew how bad the netcode was, and we know that no one really plays with an Ethernet cord on Switch, so that's arguably the worst version you could play. It really bothers me that I cannot get Super Butoden on Switch. Maybe that's what you think that pre-order should be, exclusive rewards for those who take the leap of faith and spend their money before the game comes out. And if that's the case, I really want to know your opinion on Super Butoden 2. This was also a game that only came out in Japan, Spain, and France back in 1994. And they released Super Butoden 2 for the first time in North America as a pre-order bonus for Extreme Butoden on the 3DS. This was 2015, 3 years before Dragon Ball FighterZ. Only this time, you can only get that bonus if you pre-order in the United Kingdom through the retailer Game, and in the United States through Amazon using an email with a code to download the title. Not only did you have to pre-order, you had to do it on specific retailers. The pre-order aspect of this was even worse, but there is a silver lining, because you can still get Super Butoden 2 if you buy the digital version of Extreme Butoden through the Nintendo eShop. So you could actually wait for Extreme Butoden to come out, check out reviews and all of that, and then if you also wanted Super Butoden 2, there was a path to get it legally. It's not ideal, I mean, you're getting one more expensive game because you want to buy that other, presumably cheaper game, but hey, at least there is a way, unless the game gets delisted, which it did back in September 2017. I checked the 3DS store and the only thing I can find for Extreme Butoden is an update. I don't know if you can see that. Actualiza sound, that means update. I can download this update file for a game that I do not own. Anyway, that's my rant. It probably doesn't affect a lot of you. I'm the one that decided to go back and check every Dragon Ball game in history, but I still think it's a bummer because these were games that were never available in North America until Bandai decided to make them pre-order bonuses. The work is done. The games were ported. Release the games, you cowards. Maybe localize them, sell them in a bundle, include Super Butoden 3 to increase the value maybe. To me, that sounds like a good way to extend your Dragon Ball license for another year while doing a minimum amount of work, giving developers more time to work on whatever the next Dragon Ball game is. I don't know, but if you enjoyed the rant, make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku and I'll see you next time. Bye!